Well, you complain in some of your interviews that people care more about you as a personality than about you as a writer, but you also choose to play your own part in different movies. You play yourself in different movies.
Only once actually. And I did play, and I agree with you, that's a problem. I mean, because I think I did it once in Bridget Jones Diary, and I did it because the author of the original book, Helen Fielding, is an old friend of mine. And basically she called me up and bullied me to do it. In fact, I think her exact words were, she said, "How would you like to make a fool of yourself?" So I said, okay. But I think maybe that's funny once to play, but I think it's not that funny 6 or 7 times. So I actually made a rule after that if I'm interested in the movies, and if people want to offer me little parts, then maybe I could take them. But I think playing myself, I think that's enough. No more of that.
Well, your books also have their own personality now that they got so many awards. Some of them got a lot of controversy. How do you relate to them now?
Well, I'm just happy that they are alive. That's to say that some books quickly become inert. And they, in a way, cease to have a life in the world. I'm very pleased to have written books that have a life in the world. I would have wanted, when I started out as a writer, I would have liked to think that would happen. So I'm happy that it did.
How do you relate to the Satanic Verses in this way?
Truthfully, I think it's a book amongst my books. I think as well or badly about it as I do about any of the other books. I don't particularly look back. I'm not by nature. I don't look back at my earlier work that much. I'm more interested in the next thing than in the old things. So I'm happy that it's there. I can't imagine my work without it, and I'm happy that now we've reached a moment in its life when the people who now pick it up, I think, pick it up because they're interested to see what kind of a novel it is. And so instead of people reading it to find out where the dirty bits are, it's finally allowed to be just like any other novel, and so some people like it and some people don't, and that's fine, and that is the ordinary life of a book. So it finally has that after all these years.
Talking about working in films, I heard that you're going to have a part in the new Matrix, in a new movie.
Oh well, it's not. No. It's not the Matrix. It's the film by the makers of the Matrix, but it has nothing to do with the Matrix.
Can you tell me a few things about?
All I know is they're making a film which is about Iraq, about contemporary Iraq. The main narrative is about contemporary Iraq, but they have an idea to have a part of an element of the film is a kind of science fictional element where they imagine intellectuals in the future, like 100 years from now, looking back at the present and making a commentary on it. And I think they have 8 or 9 people who would not play themselves, but they would play a future intellectual, kind of looking back at this almost as a historian, to discuss it. And they want me to be one of those people. So it's one day's interview.
You had a very nice dialogue with Terry Gilliam.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, it was also printed. And I was wondering, you said that they're talking about screening Harun and the Sea of Stories. Would you see a movie made by Terry Gilliam after?
I've always said to Terry Gilliam that I would love him to make a film of one of my books, and he's always not done it. So he's a friend, but I think the thing about Terry is that his films come out of his own imagination, and I think he only really likes to make the films which come out of his imagination rather than adapting somebody else's work. So I respect that, and so it means that probably he will not make it. There is a project for making a film of Harun and the Sea of Stories, and it's not finalized yet, so I don't want to say too much about it, but there's a possibility anyway.
You also write children's books. You wrote 2 of them, and many writers choose to do that. Is it because it's kind of a literary exorcism, or why?
No, it's because you have children. It's very simple. I wrote these books because my children demanded them. In both cases. I remember my older son, who is now 30, when he was 10, 20 years ago, saying to me, why didn't I write books that he could read? You know, and so the answer to that ended up being Haroun and the Sea of Stories, and now I have again a 12-year-old son, and I've written this one for him. So that's it. But I mean, I have now come to feel that many of the books for children that I most admire were written for specific children also. You know, you know, Alice in Wonderland is written for Alice Liddell, you know, and Peter Pan is written for the 5 Llewellyn Davis boys, and Winnie the Pooh was written for Christopher Robin Milne, you know, and you look around, you realize that many of these, the great classics, you know, of children's literature, were written very specifically to please particular children, you know, and somehow by succeeding in doing that, they managed to please many people. And some of these books also have achieved what I tried to achieve, which is to be written in a way where grown-ups could read them differently. You know, and Alice in Wonderland is a very grown-up book in many ways. So it contains very complex ideas about philosophy and morality, you know, in there, and indeed about fiction and the nature of it and so on. Much too grown-up for children. And yet children can read it and enjoy it in their way, and grown-ups can read it and enjoy it in their way. And I wanted to have the same possibility if I could.
Well, the name of these books that you wrote for your children are Haroun and the Sea of Stories and Luca and the Fire of Life.
Yes.
If you were to write a fairy tale about yourself, would it be called Salman and...
Salman and I don't know what. I don't know what, the endless book. Because I mean, I do think somehow that, I don't know, I have the sense of writing as being something continuous. You know, and that's to say, yes, it arrives in the world in the shape of this or that book, you know, but the process of writing I see as a continuum, you know, that it's simply a thing that you're always doing, and for me it's really like it's my way of responding to the world, you know, and if there's my instinct, if there's a thing in the world that disturbs me or interests me or confuses me or whatever it might be, my way of dealing with it is to find a story to tell about it, and through the telling of the story to try and understand something about that. So I think it is, yes, an endless book.